If you think Security Plus is just about memorizing terms, that mistake could cost you the exam, and in the real world, it could leave an entire organization vulnerable to a single cyber attack. Every year, candidates lose valuable points because they overlook the basic security concepts that appear throughout the entire exam. The good news is that once you master these fundamentals, the advanced topics become much easier to understand. So stay with me until the end of this lesson, and don't forget to download the free Security Plus study guide from the description. It includes some of the most important exam questions and key concepts to help reinforce what you learned today. Welcome to Section 1 of our CompTIA Security Plus, SY0-701, exam prep course. In this lesson, we'll build the foundation that every cybersecurity professional needs. You'll learn the essential security concepts, understand how modern cyber threats affect people and organizations, and discover the principles that protect data, systems, and networks every day. These aren't just exam topics, they're the same concepts you'll encounter in real IT and cybersecurity roles. By the end of this section, you'll have a solid understanding of the fundamentals that support every other Security Plus objective. Let's get started and begin building your cybersecurity knowledge from the ground up. The absolute cornerstone of all cybersecurity is a concept known as the CIA triad. This stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and it is the standard model used to guide policies for information security within any organization. Whenever you are evaluating a security control or trying to protect a computer system, you will always refer back to this triad to see which specific area you are addressing. For your certification exam, you must remember that every single security mechanism is designed to support at least one of these three fundamental pillars. Let us start with confidentiality, which simply means keeping secrets secret from unauthorized eyes. It is the practice of ensuring that sensitive information is only viewed or accessed by people who are explicitly approved to do so. A common real-world example of confidentiality is when a hospital uses strong passwords and encryption to protect patient medical records from being read by hackers or unauthorized staff members. If a data breach occurs and sensitive information is stolen, the vital principle of confidentiality has been broken. Next we have integrity, which ensures that data is accurate, complete, and has not been maliciously or accidentally tampered with. When you download a software update from a trusted company, you want to be completely sure that a hacker has not secretly altered that file to include a dangerous virus. Organizations use mathematical tools like file hashing, which is essentially a digital fingerprint, to verify that a file has remained completely unchanged during transit. Protecting integrity guarantees that the information you are working with on a daily basis is completely trustworthy and authentic. The third pillar is availability, which dictates that authorized users must be able to access information and systems whenever they legitimately need them. A highly secure network is completely useless if the actual employees cannot log in to do their daily jobs because the company servers are constantly crashing. Security professionals use redundant backup servers, backup power supplies, and disaster recovery plans to ensure high availability during unexpected outages. When a malicious attacker launches a denial of service attack to intentionally crash a website, they are specifically targeting the availability of that system. Beyond the CIA triad, another vital concept you will encounter on the exam is non-repudiation. This is a technical term that simply means a person cannot later deny having performed a specific action because there is absolute, undeniable proof that they did it. For example, if you sign a digital contract using your unique, secure digital signature, you cannot later claim to the bank that someone else signed it on your behalf. Non-repudiation is heavily tied to logging systems and digital certificates, providing the necessary accountability so actions can always be traced back to a specific individual. To protect these enterprise systems, we rely heavily on authentication, which is the process of verifying a user is exactly who they claim to be. In the past, simply providing a basic username and a password was enough, but modern cyber threats require much stronger proof of identity. Authentication is the literal front door to your digital environment, and correctly configuring it is one of the most critical daily tasks for any security professional. A very important exam tip is to remember that authentication happens before authorization, meaning you first prove your identity before the computer system checks what files you are actually allowed to access. Because basic passwords can be easily stolen or guessed, organizations now require multi-factor authentication, which is commonly abbreviated as MFA. MFA requires a user to provide at least two different types of evidence to prove their identity before the system grants them access. This required evidence is broken down into three main categories, which are something you know, something you have, and something you are. Using MFA drastically reduces the chance of a successful account takeover because a hacker would need to steal multiple, completely different things to break into your account. Let us break down those three main authentication factors because they will frequently appear on your certification exam. Something you know is a secret stored in your head, like a complex password, a passphrase, or a personal identification number. Something you have is a physical object you possess, such as a smart card, a hardware security token, or a mobile phone that receives a text message code. Something you are involves biometrics, which are your unique physical characteristics like a fingerprint scan, facial recognition, or an iris scan. A major paradigm shift in modern cybersecurity that you must completely understand is the zero trust model. Historically, corporate networks were built like castles, where anyone who successfully got past the thick outer walls was automatically trusted to move freely inside the network. Zero trust eliminates that outdated idea completely by assuming that threats exist both outside and inside the network, meaning no user or device is ever trusted by default. In a modern zero trust environment, every single request to access a file or application is continuously verified, regardless of where that specific request originates. Closely related to the concept of zero trust is the principle of least privilege, which is a rule you will apply constantly throughout your security career. Least privilege dictates that a user should only be given the absolute bare minimum level of system access required to perform their specific daily job duties, and absolutely nothing more. If a marketing employee only needs to read a financial document, you give them read access, but you absolutely do not give them the ability to edit or delete that document. This drastically limits the potential damage to the company if that specific employee's account is eventually compromised by an attacker. When designing secure IT environments, professionals utilize a strategy called defense in depth, which relies on layering multiple, independent security controls. Imagine wearing a belt and suspenders at the exact same time. If one mechanism suddenly fails, the other is right there to serve as a reliable backup. In cybersecurity, this might look like having a strict firewall at the network edge, antivirus software installed on the computers, and mandatory employee security awareness training. If a clever hacker manages to bypass the network firewall, they still have to defeat several other independent security layers to reach their ultimate data goal. Understanding security also means deeply understanding risk, which is simply the likelihood that a specific threat will exploit a vulnerability and cause business damage. A threat is any potential danger to the organization, like a severe hurricane or a malicious hacker, while a vulnerability is a known weakness, like an unlocked server room door or outdated software. Risk management is the ongoing process of identifying these potential problems and deciding exactly how much money and effort should be spent to fix them. You cannot ever eliminate all risk entirely, so organizations must prioritize fixing the issues that could cause the most devastating financial or reputational harm. To effectively manage these identified risks, we implement various security controls, which are broadly categorized by how they actually function in the real world. Technical controls use software and hardware, such as network firewalls, data encryption, and antivirus programs, to automatically enforce security rules without human intervention. Administrative controls are the written policies, standard operating procedures, and employee training programs that heavily guide and restrict human behavior within the organization. Physical controls are tangible things you can actually touch with your hands, like security cameras, tall perimeter fences, locked server room doors, and hired security guards. Security controls are also carefully classified by their specific timing and primary purpose, starting with what we call preventive controls. A preventive control attempts to actively stop a cyber attack or security violation before it ever successfully happens, acting as the primary first line of defense. A locked physical door is a basic physical preventive control, while a software firewall blocking malicious network traffic is a technical preventive control. Your primary goal as a security professional is almost always to prevent an incident, making these specific controls incredibly valuable to the survival of any organization. When our preventive controls inevitably fail, we rely heavily on detective and corrective controls to manage the resulting security incident. Detective controls exist to quickly identify and record that an attack or policy violation has actively occurred, such as a security camera recording a late-night break-in or a digital alarm sounding. Corrective controls come into play immediately after the security event to fix the resulting damage and quickly restore the computer system back to its normal, secure working state. Restoring customer data from a secure backup server after a devastating ransomware attack is a perfect real-world example of a corrective control in action. An absolutely essential tool for implementing many of these technical controls is cryptography, which is the mathematical science of keeping information secure by transforming it into an unreadable format. When we safely encrypt data, we take normal, readable plain text and run it through a complex mathematical algorithm to create a scrambled mess called ciphertext. Without possessing the correct secret digital key, it is nearly impossible for an outside attacker to turn that ciphertext back into readable plain text. Cryptography is the hidden magic behind secure online banking, safe internet shopping, and completely confidential email communications. A specific and highly crucial type of cryptography you must know inside and out for the exam is a process called hashing. Unlike standard encryption, which is specifically designed to be reversed with a digital key, hashing is a one-way mathematical function that creates a fixed-length string of characters from a file. If you hash a document today, and then someone maliciously changes just a single comma in that document tomorrow, running the hash again will magically produce a completely different string of characters. This makes hashing the ultimate mathematical tool for proving data integrity, as it instantly flags any unauthorized modifications to a file. You will also desperately need to understand the fundamental difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption for the certification exam. Symmetric encryption uses a single, shared secret key to both lock and unlock the data, making it incredibly fast but difficult to safely share the key over the open internet. Asymmetric encryption uses a mathematically linked pair of keys, a public key that absolutely anyone can use to lock the data, and a private key kept completely secret to unlock it. Modern secure systems usually combine both of these methods, using asymmetric encryption to safely share the key first, and then symmetric encryption to quickly transfer large amounts of data. Congratulations on completing this first course section and taking a massive, highly important step toward mastering your core security fundamentals. To ensure these critical technical concepts stick firmly in your memory, I highly encourage you to complete the attached practice test covering everything we just discussed. Working through practice questions is scientifically proven to dramatically improve your long-term retention and build the exact confidence you need for exam day. The practice test is included right here with this lesson, so please take full advantage of this active learning opportunity right now. Keep up the fantastic energy, and I will see you in the next section where we will uncover the fascinating and dangerous world of threat actors and vulnerabilities. Welcome to the second section of our CompTIA Security Plus journey, where we explore the dark and fascinating world of threat actors, vectors, and vulnerabilities. In this lesson, you will learn exactly who is launching cyber attacks, how they are breaking into systems, and what weaknesses they are exploiting to get inside. Understanding the attacker mindset is incredibly important because you cannot effectively defend a network if you do not know who you are fighting against. Get ready to step into the shoes of a hacker, as this knowledge will completely change the way you look at digital security. Let us dive in and uncover the methods used by modern cybercriminals. To begin our exploration, we must first define what a threat actor actually is in the world of cybersecurity. Simply put, a threat actor is any individual, group, or organization that intentionally attempts to breach a computer system or steal sensitive data. They are the human element behind the cyber attacks you hear about in the news every single day. By understanding their specific motivations and resources, security professionals can better predict their next moves and build stronger defenses against them. The most basic type of threat actor you will encounter on your exam is commonly referred to as a script kiddie. This is a term used for attackers who lack deep technical knowledge and rely entirely on pre-written software tools created by other, more advanced hackers. Even though they do not fully understand the code they are running, script kiddies can still cause massive amounts of damage to unsecured networks. They are usually motivated by a simple desire for attention, bragging rights, or the thrill of causing chaos online. Next up are hacktivists, a term created by combining the words hacker and activist. Unlike attackers looking to make a quick profit, hacktivists are deeply motivated by a specific political, social, or environmental ideology. Their primary goal is usually to disrupt the operations of governments or corporations they disagree with, often by defacing public websites or launching massive denial-of-service attacks. They want to draw maximum media attention to their specific cause by making a very loud and public digital statement. One of the most dangerous and difficult threat actors to defend against is the insider threat. This is an employee, former employee, or trusted contractor who already has legitimate, authorized access to your organization's network and sensitive data. Because they are already inside the digital castle walls, they can bypass many external security controls completely undetected. Insider threats can be malicious employees looking to steal data for profit, or simply negligent employees who accidentally click on a dangerous link. Moving up the scale of sophistication, we find organized crime syndicates operating in the digital space. These are highly professional, heavily funded groups of cyber criminals whose singular motivation is making massive amounts of money. They treat cyber attacks like a traditional business, operating large-scale ransomware campaigns, stealing credit card databases, and selling confidential corporate data on the dark web. Defending against organized crime requires robust security controls and constant vigilance, as they are constantly evolving their illegal money-making tactics. At the very top of the threat actor pyramid are advanced persistent threats, commonly known as nation-state actors. These are elite teams of highly trained hackers directly funded and controlled by global governments to conduct cyber espionage or sabotage rival nations. They possess nearly unlimited time, money, and advanced tools, allowing them to remain hidden inside a compromised network for months or even years at a time. Their targets are usually critical national infrastructure, military secrets, and highly valuable intellectual property. Now that we know who is attacking, we need to understand exactly how they are getting in, which brings us to the concept of threat vectors. A threat vector is the specific path or method that an attacker uses to successfully deliver a malicious payload to your computer system. You can think of a threat vector as the specific road a burglar takes to reach your house, whether that is the front door, a broken window, or the chimney. Identifying and blocking these common pathways is a daily operational requirement for any working security professional. The most common and highly successful threat vector used today is undoubtedly email. Attackers send millions of deceptive emails every single day in a practice known as phishing, hoping to trick an employee into handing over their secure login credentials. These emails are carefully designed to look exactly like legitimate messages from trusted banks, software companies, or even an internal corporate IT department. Phishing exploits human psychology and trust, making it a constant challenge to defend against using only technical software tools. When a phishing attack is highly targeted against one specific individual or a small group, it is known as spear phishing. Attackers will research their target on social media to craft a highly personalized and believable email that is much harder to spot than a generic phishing attempt. A specific subset of this tactic is called whaling, which targets high-level executives like chief executive officers or finance directors. Whaling attacks are specifically designed to steal massive amounts of money by tricking executives into approving fake wire transfers. All of these deceptive email tactics fall under the broader category of social engineering, a massive topic on your certification exam. Social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing actions or accidentally revealing confidential information. Attackers know that human beings are usually the weakest link in any security chain, so they bypass the expensive firewalls by simply calling an employee and lying to them on the phone. Security awareness training is the absolute best defense we have against these psychological manipulation tactics. Another massive threat vector involves malicious software, universally referred to as malware. Malware is a broad umbrella term that covers any type of software intentionally designed to cause damage, steal data, or gain unauthorized access to a network. This dangerous software is often hidden inside seemingly innocent file downloads, disguised as legitimate software updates, or attached to those deceptive phishing emails we just discussed. Once malware successfully executes on a computer, the attacker essentially gains a firm foothold inside your digital environment. The most devastating form of malware heavily impacting modern businesses right now is ransomware. When ransomware infects a computer, it aggressively encrypts all of the user's important files, completely locking them away behind complex mathematical algorithms. The attacker then demands a large financial ransom, usually paid in untraceable cryptocurrency, in exchange for the digital key required to unlock the files. Because ransomware attacks can completely paralyze a hospital or shut down a major pipeline, they are treated as a top priority threat by security teams everywhere. You will also need to be familiar with Trojan horses, named after the famous wooden horse from Greek mythology. A Trojan is a piece of malware that disguises itself as a perfectly legitimate, desirable piece of software, like a free video game or a helpful system utility. When the unsuspecting user downloads and installs the program, it secretly opens a hidden backdoor into their computer for the attacker to use later. Unlike other types of malware, Trojans rely entirely on tricking the user into willingly installing them. To use these threat vectors effectively, attackers must find and exploit a vulnerability. As we briefly mentioned in the last section, a vulnerability is simply a flaw, weakness, or missing security control in a system that could be leveraged by a threat actor. Vulnerabilities can be physical, like a broken lock on a server room door, or technical, like a bug in a popular web browser's programming code. Finding and fixing these weaknesses before the bad guys do is a massive part of maintaining a secure network. The most feared type of weakness in the cybersecurity industry is known as a zero-day vulnerability. This is a critical software flaw that has been discovered by attackers, but the original software vendor does not know about it yet. Because the vendor is completely unaware, there is 0 days of notice to create a security patch, meaning no immediate defense exists against the attack. When nation-state actors or organized crime groups discover a 0 day, they keep it a closely guarded secret to guarantee their attacks are successful. To constantly combat these technical vulnerabilities, organizations must rely heavily on a process called patch management. Whenever a software vendor discovers a security flaw in their product, they release a small software update called a patch to permanently fix the problem. Patch management is the organized, systematic process of acquiring, testing, and installing these critical updates across all the computers in a company. Falling behind on security patching is the #1 reason that otherwise secure networks are completely compromised by basic malware. Another significant vulnerability in modern enterprise environments is the growing problem of shadow IT. This occurs when employees independently purchase and use external software, cloud applications, or hardware devices without the knowledge or approval of the official IT department. Because the security team does not know these unauthorized tools are being used, they cannot monitor them for risks or ensure they are properly protected. Attackers frequently look for unmonitored shadow IT systems as an easy, unprotected backdoor into the corporate environment. Finally, we must discuss the massive vulnerability introduced by the modern digital supply chain. A supply chain attack occurs when an attacker breaches a large, well-protected company by first compromising one of their smaller, less secure external vendors. If an attacker can successfully insert malicious code into an accounting software tool used by thousands of companies, they instantly gain access to all of those interconnected networks. Securing the supply chain is incredibly difficult because you must verify the security practices of every single external partner you do business with. Congratulations on completing the second section and expanding your understanding of the incredible threats facing modern networks. To ensure you fully grasp how these different attackers and vulnerabilities operate, I highly encourage you to complete the attached multiple-choice practice test. I specifically designed these multiple-choice questions to mirror the real exam format, as practicing this way is the absolute best method to improve your retention and test day readiness. This multiple-choice practice test is included right here with your lesson materials, so please take a few moments to test your active learning right now. You are doing a fantastic job, and I will see you in the next section where we will begin designing strong security architectures to defend against these exact threats. Welcome to the third section of our CompTIA Security Plus course, where we shift our focus to security architecture and design principles. In this lesson, you will learn how to build highly secure network environments from the ground up by strategically placing defensive controls. Understanding these architectural concepts is vital because a poorly designed network cannot be secured, no matter how much money you spend on advanced software. Get ready to design resilient systems that can withstand sophisticated attacks and keep business operations running smoothly. Let us begin laying the structural foundation for a truly secure enterprise environment. The first major architectural concept we must master is network segmentation, which involves dividing a large, flat network into smaller, isolated sections. If an entire company uses one giant, open network, malware that infects a receptionist's computer can instantly spread to the main financial servers. By physically or logically separating different departments, we create internal roadblocks that slow down or completely stop an attacker from moving freely. This strategy relies heavily on the principle of least privilege, ensuring that devices only communicate with the specific network segments absolutely necessary for their exact daily function. To achieve this segmentation logically without buying separate physical cables for every single department, engineers use virtual local area networks, commonly known as VLANs. A VLAN is a smart software configuration inside a network switch that groups specific computers together as if they were wired to their own private network. You can put all the accounting computers on one VLAN and all the guest mobile devices on a completely different VLAN using the exact same physical equipment. This provides a massive security boost because a guest user cannot simply browse the local network and find sensitive corporate servers. When an organization needs to host public-facing services, like a company website or an external email server, they use a specialized network segment called the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. The DMZ acts as a highly monitored buffer space located right between the untrusted public internet and the strictly protected internal corporate network. If a hacker successfully attacks the public web server located inside the DMZ, they are still blocked from directly accessing the internal databases containing sensitive employee records. It is essentially a secure digital waiting room where public traffic is permitted, but strict rules prevent that traffic from moving any deeper into the company. At the boundary between these different network zones, we logically place firewalls to carefully control the flow of traffic based on strict security rules. A firewall is essentially a digital security guard that inspects every single packet of data trying to enter or leave a specific network segment. It reads the source, the destination, and the specific type of traffic before making a fast decision to either allow the connection or completely block it. Understanding exactly how to place and configure firewalls correctly is a fundamental operational skill that will be heavily tested on your certification exam. Modern enterprise environments rely on next-generation firewalls, which provide significantly deeper inspection capabilities than traditional, older firewall models. While older firewalls only looked at basic network routing addresses, a next-generation firewall can actually understand the specific application being used, like identifying a video call versus a large file transfer. They also incorporate built-in intrusion prevention systems, which can automatically detect and block known malicious attack patterns in real time without human help. This deep visibility is an absolute requirement for enforcing modern corporate security policies and protecting against highly sophisticated malware payloads. To actively protect the actual employees safely browsing the internet, network architects deploy secure web gateways and proxy servers. A proxy server acts as an intelligent intermediary, meaning an employee's computer connects to the proxy, and then the proxy connects to the external internet website on their behalf. This setup allows the organization to filter out dangerous, infected, or highly inappropriate websites before the connection is ever successfully completed. It also completely hides the internal employee's true network address from the outside world, adding an extra layer of valuable privacy and security. Another critical design principle we must absolutely discuss is high availability, which directly supports the availability pillar of the security triad we learned about earlier. High availability is the architectural goal of ensuring a computer system remains continuously operational for the maximum possible amount of time, even during a major hardware failure. Engineers achieve this impressive feat by eliminating any single point of failure, meaning there is no single piece of physical equipment that could bring down the entire network if it breaks. If a critical network router suddenly dies, a redundant backup router must instantly take over the heavy workload without the end users ever noticing a disruption. To effectively manage massive amounts of incoming network traffic and ensure this high availability, organizations use dedicated devices called load balancers. A load balancer sits right in front of a large group of identical web servers and evenly distributes the incoming user requests among all of them. If one specific server suddenly becomes overwhelmed or crashes completely, the load balancer intelligently stops sending traffic to the broken machine and seamlessly redirects it to the healthy ones. This clever strategy keeps the company website incredibly fast and responsive during massive traffic spikes, frustrating any attackers attempting to launch a basic denial of service attack. When designing secure, highly resilient systems, we also have to deeply consider the physical geographic location of the data, which brings us to geographic dispersion. Instead of keeping all critical servers inside a single, vulnerable building, global organizations spread their data centers across multiple cities or even entirely different countries. If a massive, unexpected hurricane completely destroys the primary data center in Florida, a fully synchronized backup facility in Texas instantly takes over the workload. This geographic diversity is the absolute physical backbone of a solid, reliable business continuity and disaster recovery plan. As modern companies rapidly move away from physical data centers, understanding cloud security architecture has become an absolutely massive requirement for the exam. The cloud simply refers to renting massive computing resources, like powerful servers or infinite storage space, from huge providers like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google over the internet. Because you are essentially putting your highly sensitive corporate data on someone else's physical computers, the architectural design must be completely flawless to prevent catastrophic data breaches. The most important fundamental concept to understand here is the shared responsibility model, which dictates exactly who is legally responsible for securing different parts of the cloud environment. In a standard cloud environment, the massive cloud provider is generally responsible for the physical security of the data center buildings, the perimeter fences, and the underlying hardware. However, the customer organization is almost always entirely responsible for the specific security of their own data, the user access rules, and how they configure their software. A massive number of real-world corporate data breaches happen simply because a customer accidentally configured a cloud storage bucket to be publicly readable by absolutely anyone on the internet. Knowing exactly where the provider's legal responsibility ends and your security responsibility begins is absolutely critical for safe cloud architecture. To strictly enforce security policies specifically in these remote cloud environments, organizations frequently deploy cloud access security brokers, commonly abbreviated as CASB. A CASB is a highly specialized software tool that sits exactly between the organization's physical on-premise network and the external cloud provider's massive infrastructure. It acts as a strict policy enforcement point, ensuring that employees are not accidentally uploading highly confidential corporate files to unapproved, personal cloud storage accounts. A CASB provides the vital network visibility and strict control that security teams desperately need when data moves completely outside their traditional, physical network perimeter. Another massive shift in modern network architecture is the rapid transition to software-defined networking, which completely separates the control of network traffic from the physical hardware boxes. Instead of an engineer manually logging into dozens of individual routers to change a routing rule, an administrator can change the rule on a central software controller, which instantly updates all the hardware simultaneously. This allows complex networks to become incredibly agile and highly automated, quickly adapting to massive traffic changes or new security threats without slow human intervention. While this makes daily management much easier, it also strictly means securing that central software controller becomes the single most important task in the entire network. We must also carefully discuss the security architecture required to fully support a modern, highly mobile remote workforce using virtual private networks, or VPNs. A VPN creates a highly secure, mathematically encrypted tunnel over the incredibly dangerous public internet, allowing remote employees to safely access internal corporate files from a busy coffee shop or airport. This encrypted tunnel absolutely ensures that anyone attempting to maliciously spy on the network traffic only sees unreadable scrambled ciphertext, completely protecting the confidentiality of the sensitive data in transit. You will frequently configure and troubleshoot these VPN connections to ensure remote workers can do their daily jobs safely and reliably from anywhere in the world. An excellent alternative to traditional VPNs that is heavily and frequently tested on the certification exam is Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, or VDI. Instead of dangerously sending sensitive files across the internet to a remote employee's easily lost physical laptop, VDI hosts the entire Windows desktop environment on a secure, centralized corporate server. The remote employee only ever sees a real-time streaming video feed of the desktop, and absolutely no sensitive data is ever permanently saved on their local hard drive. If the employee's physical laptop is stolen at a busy train station, the company data remains completely safe because it never actually left the highly secure corporate data center. When actively securing these highly complex enterprise architectures, you will frequently utilize a honeypot, which is an exciting and highly effective defensive tracking tool. A honeypot is a deliberately vulnerable, completely fake computer system designed strictly to attract and trap malicious hackers who have somehow broken into the local network. It safely contains realistic-looking, fake corporate files to keep the attacker completely busy, while the security team secretly monitors their every move to learn exactly how they operate. Because no legitimate corporate employee should ever have a reason to access a honeypot, any network connection to it instantly triggers an immediate, high-priority security alarm. To smoothly tie all of these complex architectural concepts together, modern security teams rely heavily on a security information and event management system, universally known as a SIEM. A SIEM acts as the central, highly intelligent brain of the Security Operations Center, constantly collecting massive amounts of digital log files from every firewall, server, and router on the network. It uses highly advanced mathematical algorithms to analyze all of this data simultaneously, aggressively looking for complex, hidden attack patterns that a human being would never naturally notice. If a remote user logs in from New York and then attempts to download files from Japan exactly 5 minutes later, the SIEM immediately flags this impossible physical travel as a major security incident. The most advanced and well-funded organizations are now actively pairing their SIEM with security orchestration, automation, and response tools, commonly called SOAR. While a standard SIEM simply detects the security problem and loudly raises an alarm, a SOAR platform can automatically execute a pre-written software script to instantly fix the problem without waiting for slow human permission. If the SIEM detects a standard computer heavily infected with ransomware, the SOAR platform can automatically update the network switch to completely quarantine that specific machine in a matter of mere seconds. This incredible, fast-paced automation drastically reduces the total time it takes to respond to a fast-moving cyber attack, severely minimizing the overall financial damage to the enterprise. Congratulations on successfully completing the third section and fully mastering the foundational principles of secure enterprise architecture and network design. To make absolutely sure you fully understand how these complex security controls perfectly fit together, I strongly encourage you to tackle the attached multiple-choice practice test covering these architectural concepts. Completing these multiple-choice practice questions is scientifically proven to be the absolute best way to reinforce your understanding and dramatically improve your readiness for the actual certification exam. The practice test is included right here with this lesson, so please take a few brief moments to evaluate your new technical knowledge right now. You are making incredible, consistent progress, and I will see you in the very next section where we will tackle the exciting daily challenges of securing enterprise environments and operations. Welcome to the fourth section of our CompTIA Security Plus journey, focusing heavily on securing enterprise environments and daily operations. In this lesson, we will transition from high-level architectural design into the practical, day-to-day tasks required to keep a business running safely. Understanding these operational practices is absolutely critical because even the best network design will eventually fail if it is not properly managed and maintained over time. Get ready to learn exactly how security teams manage access, secure devices, and handle the daily routine of protecting a modern workforce. Let us jump right in and explore the operational heartbeat of enterprise cybersecurity. The absolute first step in securing any daily operational environment is establishing a secure baseline configuration for all company devices. When you buy a brand new computer or server right out of the box, it is usually configured for maximum convenience rather than maximum security, leaving many dangerous features turned on. Hardening is the systematic operational process of turning off those unnecessary features, changing default passwords, and applying strict security settings before the device is ever given to an employee. By using a standardized, highly secure baseline image, the IT department guarantees that every single machine starts perfectly secure from day one. Managing those secure baselines becomes incredibly challenging when we introduce smartphones and tablets, which is why enterprises rely on mobile device management, or MDM. An MDM is a centralized software platform that allows the security team to strictly enforce corporate policies on all employee mobile devices wirelessly. If an employee accidentally leaves their company-issued smartphone in the back of a taxi, the IT department can use the MDM to remotely wipe all the sensitive corporate data before it is discovered by a stranger. This tool is absolutely mandatory for any modern business that allows employees to access corporate email or files on the go. The operational challenge increases significantly when a company adopts a bring-your-own-device policy, universally known as BYOD. In a BYOD scenario, employees are allowed to use their own personal smartphones and laptops to access highly confidential corporate data. To secure this challenging setup, the MDM platform creates a strict, mathematically isolated container on the personal device specifically for work applications. This clever separation ensures the company can safely delete the corporate data if the employee leaves, without accidentally erasing their personal family photos. A massive part of daily security operations revolves around identity and access management, commonly referred to as IAM. This is the complete lifecycle process of creating, managing, and eventually deleting user accounts as employees are hired, promoted, and eventually leave the company. When an employee is suddenly terminated, the IAM process dictates that their network access must be instantly disabled to completely prevent any retaliatory data theft. Proper onboarding and offboarding procedures are frequently tested on the exam because they are critical for maintaining a secure enterprise. To make this daily access management easier for the actual employees, organizations heavily implement single sign-on, or SSO. Without SSO, an employee might have to memorize a dozen different complex passwords for their email, payroll, and project management software, which usually leads to them writing those passwords on sticky notes. SSO solves this by allowing the user to authenticate exactly one time with a single set of credentials, instantly granting them seamless access to all their approved applications. While this is incredibly convenient, it also means securing that primary SSO login with multi-factor authentication becomes the most critical priority. When your company needs to safely share access with a completely different external organization, we use a concept called federation. Imagine your company outsources its human resources platform to an external vendor, but you still want your employees to log in using their normal, internal company credentials. Federation uses secure mathematical protocols to establish a deep circle of trust between the two completely separate networks, allowing them to safely share authentication data. This allows your employees to seamlessly access the external partner site without the external vendor ever actually seeing their private passwords. To legally control exactly what those employees can do once they log in, administrators heavily utilize role-based access control, or RBAC. Instead of manually assigning 50 different file permissions to one single employee, the administrator creates a standardized role, like an accounting role or a marketing role. When a new accountant is hired, the administrator simply assigns them the accounting role, instantly granting them all the specific access they need to do their exact job. This scenario-based approach saves hundreds of hours of manual labor and drastically reduces the chance of accidentally giving an employee too much access. For even tighter operational control, highly advanced environments are rapidly moving toward attribute-based access control, known as ABAC. Unlike basic roles, ABAC uses a highly complex set of conditional rules, evaluating the user's location, the exact time of day, and the specific device they are using. For example, an ABAC rule might allow a doctor to view sensitive patient medical records only if they are physically located inside the hospital building during their normal working shift. If that exact same doctor tries to access the exact same records from a public beach on a Sunday, the system automatically blocks the request. Another critical piece of daily operations is securing the enterprise wireless network, which is fundamentally different from securing physical, wired connections. Because Wi-Fi signals literally broadcast data through the open air, anyone sitting in the company parking lot with a laptop can easily intercept the network traffic. To completely secure these wireless communications, modern enterprises must mandate the use of the highly advanced WPA3 security protocol, which replaces older, easily broken standards. WPA3 provides robust, individualized mathematical encryption for every single user on the network, keeping your corporate data completely safe from eavesdroppers. The security team must also constantly scan the physical office environment for a dangerous wireless threat known as a rogue access point. This occurs when an employee secretly plugs an unauthorized, cheap home Wi-Fi router directly into the secure corporate network so they can get a better internet connection on their personal phone. Because this unauthorized router completely bypasses the expensive corporate firewalls, it immediately creates a massive, open backdoor for any attacker in the immediate area. A very similar attack is the evil twin, where a hacker intentionally creates a fake, malicious Wi-Fi network with the exact same name as the real corporate network to trick employees into connecting. To defend the actual employee computers and laptops from advanced daily threats, operations teams deploy endpoint detection and response software, universally called EDR. Traditional antivirus software only looks for known, old viruses based on static file signatures, which makes it completely useless against brand new zero-day attacks. EDR acts like an intelligent security camera constantly recording everything happening on the computer, looking for highly suspicious behavior rather than just matching known virus signatures. If EDR sees Microsoft Word suddenly attempting to deeply encrypt the entire hard drive, it instantly stops the process, recognizing it as a clear ransomware attack. Preventing sensitive company files from ever leaving the building is handled by a data loss prevention system, commonly abbreviated as DLP. A DLP solution actively scans every outgoing email, uploaded file, and copied document to ensure highly confidential information is not being stolen or accidentally leaked. If a well-meaning employee attempts to email an unencrypted spreadsheet containing 1,000 customer credit card numbers, the DLP system will immediately block the email and alert the security team. This is a vital operational tool for any organization dealing with strictly regulated data like healthcare records or financial information. Before any device is even allowed to connect to the internal network, it must pass a strict health check performed by a Network Access Control System, or NAC. When an employee plugs their laptop into a wall jack, the NAC heavily interrogates the machine to ensure the antivirus software is updated and the operating system is fully patched. If the laptop is severely outdated or highly infected, the NAC instantly forces it into a secure, isolated quarantine network where it cannot harm the rest of the company. This ensures that only clean, perfectly healthy devices are ever granted operational access to the main corporate environment. We must never forget that physical security operations are just as important as digital software controls. A common physical attack is tailgating, where a malicious attacker quickly follows a legitimate employee through a locked door before it heavily closes behind them. To perfectly prevent this specific scenario, highly secure data centers use a man-trap, which is a specialized physical security space with two interlocking doors. The first door must completely close and securely lock before the second door will open, guaranteeing that only one fully authorized person can enter the room at a time. Keeping the enterprise running smoothly absolutely requires a strict, formal process known as change management. In the past, eager IT administrators would quickly install software updates in the middle of the day, frequently causing massive server crashes and stopping all business operations. Change management is a mandatory operational committee that carefully reviews, tests, and properly schedules every single network change before it is ever allowed to happen. This ensures that all critical updates are safely performed during late-night maintenance windows, completely avoiding any costly disruptions to daily business operations. You absolutely cannot secure a network if you do not know exactly what is connected to it, which brings us to the operational necessity of asset management. Asset management is the continuous, daily process of completely inventorying every single laptop, server, and software license owned by the entire organization. When a massive new vulnerability is announced on the evening news, the security team urgently checks the asset inventory to instantly see if the company uses the affected software. Without a perfectly accurate asset inventory, finding and fixing security flaws is completely impossible. To actively test these daily operational defenses, organizations frequently hire highly skilled ethical hackers to perform a penetration test. Unlike a simple, automated vulnerability scan that just prints out a long list of potential software flaws, a penetration test is a fully simulated, human-led cyber attack. The ethical hacker actively tries to exploit the discovered vulnerabilities, completely break into the network, and safely steal dummy data to prove exactly how a real attacker would do it. This provides the company with incredibly valuable, real-world scenarios to rapidly improve their security posture. Finally, the true core of securing enterprise operations is the practice of continuous security monitoring. The threat landscape changes every single day, so a network that was perfectly secure on Monday might become completely vulnerable on Tuesday morning. The Security Operations Center must constantly watch the SIEM dashboards, review incoming log files, and actively hunt for new, hidden threats 24 hours a day. Cybersecurity is never a simple, one-time project that you finish. It is an ongoing, continuous operational battle to stay one step ahead of the bad guys. Congratulations on completing Section 4 and gaining a massive understanding of exactly how we secure the daily operations of a modern enterprise environment. To absolutely ensure you have mastered these vital operational concepts, I highly encourage you to immediately complete the attached multiple-choice practice test. Testing your knowledge with multiple-choice questions is scientifically proven to reinforce your memory and completely prepare you for the real certification scenarios. The practice test is included right here, so please challenge yourself with this active learning right now. You are building an incredible foundation, and I will see you in the next section where we will learn exactly how to respond when these defenses inevitably fail. Welcome to the fifth section of our CompTIA Security Plus exam preparation course, which dives deeply into incident response and vulnerability management. In this lesson, you will learn exactly how to detect hidden security flaws and what to do when a hacker successfully breaches your network defenses. Understanding these critical processes is incredibly important because no system is perfectly secure, and knowing how to respond calmly during an attack will absolutely save your organization. Get ready to develop the analytical mindset of a first responder, as we explore the exact steps needed to contain and defeat active cyber threats. Let us jump right in and learn how to take control of an emergency situation. The absolute foundation of handling any cybersecurity emergency is having a well-documented incident response plan. This plan is a detailed, written policy that completely outlines exactly who should be called, what steps they should take, and how the organization will communicate during an active cyber attack. Without a formal plan in place, IT teams tend to panic during a crisis, making rushed decisions that can easily destroy valuable forensic evidence or make the damage significantly worse. You can think of the incident response plan as a digital fire drill, ensuring that everyone knows their exact role before the real fire actually starts. The incident response process is officially broken down into a standard life cycle of 6 distinct phases that you must memorize for the exam. These phases provide a structured, scenario-based methodology for handling complex security events, focusing heavily on critical thinking and real-world decision-making rather than blind panic. The 6 phases are preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Following this exact order ensures that security teams systematically analyze the threat and completely eliminate it without skipping any vital operational steps. The very first phase is preparation, which happens long before any actual security breach ever occurs. During preparation, the organization writes the official response plan, purchases necessary forensic software tools, and constantly trains the security team using simulated tabletop attack scenarios. If a company does not spend adequate time preparing, they will completely fail when a real-world ransomware attack suddenly locks down their primary databases. Preparation is widely considered the most important phase because it dictates the speed and ultimate success of all the remaining steps. The second phase is identification, where the security team must rapidly determine if a true security incident has actually occurred. This requires deep analytical reasoning to sort through massive amounts of daily network logs and alerts generated by the security tools we discussed in previous lessons. If an employee reports their computer is acting strangely, the responder must investigate to figure out if it is a simple hardware glitch or a devastating malware infection. Accurately identifying the exact nature of the threat is critical for choosing the correct defensive strategy moving forward. Once an active threat is positively identified, we immediately move into the highly critical containment phase. The primary goal of containment is to completely stop the attacker from spreading their malware or stealing more sensitive data without immediately deleting the infected systems. In a real-world scenario, this usually means quickly disconnecting the infected server from the main network switch while leaving the power turned completely on. By isolating the machine without shutting it down, we safely contain the blast radius of the attack while perfectly preserving the running computer memory for later forensic analysis. After safely containing the immediate threat, the response team moves to the eradication phase to completely remove the attacker from the network. Eradication involves aggressively deleting the malicious files, safely disabling any hidden backdoors the hacker created, and strictly patching the original vulnerability they exploited. You absolutely cannot skip the eradication step, because if you leave even a single piece of hidden malware behind, the attacker will instantly regain access the next day. This phase requires meticulous attention to detail to ensure the digital environment is completely sanitized and safe. With the threat completely eradicated, the organization can carefully begin the recovery phase to restore normal business operations. Recovery involves bringing the affected servers back online, carefully restoring clean data from secure backup tapes, and continuously monitoring the network for any signs of returning attackers. Security teams do not simply turn everything back on at once. They slowly and methodically restore services to ensure the environment remains perfectly stable. This is the exact moment when the business finally begins to heal from the financial disruption caused by the cyber attack. The final and often most neglected phase of the incident response lifecycle is the lessons learned review. Within a few days of resolving the incident, the entire response team must gather to honestly discuss exactly what went wrong and how they can drastically improve their performance next time. They analyze the root cause of the breach and update the official incident response plan to ensure the exact same attack never succeeds again. This continuous feedback loop transforms a negative security breach into a highly valuable learning experience for the entire organization. When responding to an incident, you must fully understand the critical concepts of digital forensics, which is the scientific process of collecting electronic evidence. Digital forensics requires strict adherence to legal procedures, ensuring that any collected evidence can be safely and successfully used in a real court of law. If an investigator accidentally alters a file while investigating a compromised server, a judge will completely throw that evidence out of court. Forensic analysis requires immense patience and specialized software tools that can safely duplicate hard drives without ever changing the original data. A massively important exam topic within digital forensics is the strict legal concept known as the chain of custody. The chain of custody is a heavily documented, unbroken paper trail that records exactly who collected the evidence, exactly where it was stored, and every single person who touched it. When a physical hard drive is seized as evidence, the investigator logs the exact time, signs a form, and places it in a highly secure, locked safe. This meticulous documentation legally proves that the evidence was perfectly protected and absolutely no one secretly tampered with it before the criminal trial. You must also completely understand the crucial forensic rule known as the order of volatility when collecting digital evidence. Volatile data is fragile information that completely disappears the instant a computer loses electrical power, such as the active network connections or running computer memory. Investigators must strictly collect the most volatile data first, like the RAM, before moving on to less volatile, permanent data like the physical hard drive. If you pull the power plug out of the wall before capturing the memory, you will permanently destroy the decryption keys hidden there by the attacker. Shifting slightly away from active incident response, the other major half of this section is proactive vulnerability management. While incident response deals with active fires, vulnerability management is the continuous daily process of finding and fixing hidden weaknesses before the attackers can exploit them. This requires a highly structured, analytical approach to constantly scanning the network and quickly prioritizing which software flaws pose the greatest actual danger. A mature vulnerability management program drastically reduces the total number of security incidents your response team ever has to handle. The primary technical tool used for this ongoing process is a vulnerability scanner, which is an automated software application that searches your entire network for known security flaws. The scanner checks the version numbers of all installed software against a massive global database of known vulnerabilities, instantly flagging any outdated or dangerous programs. It is incredibly important to understand that a scanner only identifies the missing security patches. It does not actually test or exploit them like a human hacker would. You will run these automated scans on a weekly or monthly basis to maintain a clear picture of your overall network health. When configuring these automated tools, you must know the critical difference between a credentialed scan and a non-credentialed scan. A non-credentialed scan strictly mimics an outside attacker, heavily probing the network from the outside without any valid login passwords to see what is visible. A credentialed scan is vastly superior because you give the scanner a highly privileged administrator password. allowing it to log directly into the computers and deeply inspect the internal file systems. Credentialed scans provide a much more accurate and comprehensive list of internal vulnerabilities without generating as much disruptive network traffic. To help you intelligently prioritize the massive list of flaws found by the scanner, the industry uses the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, commonly known as CVSS. The CVSS assigns a strict numerical score from 0 to 10 based on exactly how easy the vulnerability is to exploit and how much total damage it could cause. A critical vulnerability with a perfect score of 10 might mean an attacker can instantly take over your network from the internet without even needing a password. Security teams use these standardized scores to ensure they're spending their limited time fixing the most dangerous, high-priority problems first. When deeply analyzing vulnerability scan reports, you will frequently encounter the highly frustrating operational issue known as a false positive. A false positive occurs when the automated scanner incorrectly flags a perfectly safe computer as having a critical vulnerability, completely wasting the security team's valuable time. Conversely, a false negative is a truly terrifying scenario where a massive vulnerability actually exists on the system, but the scanner completely fails to detect it. This is exactly why you cannot blindly trust automated software tools and must always apply human critical thinking to verify the actual scan results. To truly test if a vulnerability is dangerous in a real-world scenario, organizations frequently conduct structured penetration testing. While a standard vulnerability scan simply points out that an unlocked door exists, a penetration test involves a hired ethical hacker actively trying to walk through that door and steal data. Penetration testing provides absolute, undeniable proof that an attacker could exploit a specific weakness, instantly removing the uncertainty of false positives. It heavily tests both the technical network defenses and the analytical detection skills of the internal incident response team. The ultimate goal of your vulnerability management program should be achieving a state of continuous monitoring. Instead of only checking for security flaws once a year during an annual audit, continuous monitoring means the organization is actively looking for new vulnerabilities every single day. This proactive, always-on approach perfectly aligns with the zero-trust architectural principles we discussed in earlier lessons. By constantly analyzing the network for weaknesses, security teams drastically reduce the window of opportunity that attackers have to launch a successful data breach. Congratulations on completing Section 5 and mastering the critical analytical skills required for incident response and vulnerability management. To ensure you can apply this advanced reasoning under pressure, I highly encourage you to complete the attached multiple-choice practice test heavily featuring scenario-based questions. These specific practice scenarios will strongly test your critical thinking and real-world decision-making, which is exactly how the real certification exam is structured. The multiple-choice practice test is included right here with this lesson, so please take the time to evaluate your active learning right now. Keep up this incredible momentum, and I will see you in our final section where we tie everything together with risk management and compliance. Welcome to the sixth and final section of our CompTIA Security Plus course, focusing entirely on governance, risk management, and compliance, widely known as GRC. In this final lesson, you will learn how the technical controls we discussed earlier perfectly align with business goals, legal requirements, and risk survival. Understanding the business side of cybersecurity is absolutely essential because security ultimately exists to support and protect the operational goals of the organization. Get ready to master the high-level strategies that executives use to keep their companies legally safe and financially stable. Let us finish strong and explore how GRC forms the ultimate protective umbrella over the entire enterprise. Governance, risk management, and compliance are three interconnected pillars that dictate exactly how an organization operates securely at the highest executive levels. Governance provides the overarching strategic direction, ensuring that the security program perfectly aligns with the specific financial and operational goals of the business. Risk management is the continuous process of identifying potential threats and deciding exactly how much money should be spent to protect against them. Compliance ensures that the entire organization strictly follows all external legal regulations and internal corporate policies to avoid massive financial penalties. The foundation of strong governance is built entirely upon written corporate policies, which are high-level rules strictly mandated by upper management. An acceptable use policy, for example, clearly dictates exactly how employees are allowed to use company computers and the internet during their daily working hours. These written policies are completely mandatory, and failure to follow them usually results in severe disciplinary action or immediate termination. For your exam, you must remember that policies are always created by management to establish the broad security expectations for the entire company. To accurately implement those broad policies, organizations use standards, procedures, and guidelines to give employees specific daily instructions. A standard sets a mandatory technical requirement, such as dictating that all company laptops must strictly use full hard drive encryption. A procedure is a highly detailed, step-by-step instruction manual showing an IT administrator exactly how to configure that specific encryption software. A guideline is simply a strong recommendation or best practice that employees should ideally follow, but it is not strictly mandatory like a policy or standard. Moving directly into risk management, the most important process you will learn is conducting a formal, highly structured risk assessment. A risk assessment systematically identifies all the valuable digital assets an organization owns and aggressively evaluates the potential threats that could damage them. By analyzing the likelihood of a threat occurring and the financial impact it would ultimately cause, executives can make highly informed budgetary decisions. You simply cannot effectively protect a network if you do not know exactly what assets you have or what specific dangers they constantly face. When performing these critical risk assessments, security professionals use two primary methods, starting with quantitative risk analysis. Quantitative analysis focuses entirely on hard financial numbers, mathematically calculating exactly how many dollars a specific security incident will cost the organization. You use specific mathematical formulas to multiply the financial value of an asset by the exact percentage of damage a threat would cause. This mathematically objective approach is incredibly useful when you are trying to convince a chief financial officer to approve a massive, expensive security budget. Because finding exact financial numbers is sometimes incredibly difficult and time-consuming, organizations frequently rely heavily on qualitative risk analysis. Instead of using hard financial calculations, qualitative analysis uses simple, scenario-based categories like high, medium, and low risk to quickly prioritize threats. It relies heavily on the expert judgment and critical thinking of the security team to evaluate how a threat would negatively impact the company reputation. This method is incredibly fast and flexible, allowing executives to quickly understand their most dangerous risks without spending months crunching complicated numbers. Once a specific risk is perfectly identified and analyzed, management must decide exactly how to respond to it using four standard strategies. The first strategy is risk acceptance, which means the company simply acknowledges the danger but decides it is too expensive to fix, choosing instead to live with the risk. The second strategy is risk transfer, where the organization safely shifts the financial burden of the risk to a third party, usually by purchasing a massive cybersecurity insurance policy. You must remember that you can easily transfer the financial cost of a breach, but you can never legally transfer the ultimate responsibility for protecting the data. The third critical response strategy is risk mitigation, which is exactly where security professionals spend the vast majority of their daily working time. Mitigation involves actively implementing technical or administrative controls, like strong firewalls and employee training, to heavily reduce the likelihood or impact of the threat. The fourth and final strategy is risk avoidance, which simply means completely stopping the dangerous activity that creates the massive risk in the first place. If a company decides that offering a specific online service is simply too dangerous to safely secure, they will completely avoid the risk by shutting that service down permanently. The third major pillar of GRC is compliance, which legally guarantees that the company is strictly following all external laws and industry regulations. Different industries face completely different legal requirements, meaning a large medical hospital follows vastly different rules than a standard retail clothing store. Failing to maintain perfect compliance usually results in devastating government fines, massive legal lawsuits, and a complete, permanent loss of customer trust. Security teams must constantly ensure their daily technical network controls perfectly satisfy the strict legal requirements laid out by strict government regulators. You will definitely encounter several specific compliance frameworks on your certification exam that you must easily and instantly recognize. For example, if you actively process the personal data of citizens located in the European Union, you must strictly comply with the General Data Protection Regulation, known as GDPR. If you work in the American healthcare industry, you are strictly legally bound by HIPAA to maintain the absolute confidentiality of all patient medical records. Understanding exactly which specific legal framework applies to your unique business environment is absolutely critical for building a legally compliant security architecture. Another incredibly common compliance standard you must absolutely know is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, universally abbreviated as PCI DSS. This strict global industry standard applies to absolutely any business that stores, processes, or heavily transmits customer credit card information over the internet. It dictates highly specific technical requirements, like exactly how long you can securely keep a credit card number and what specific type of encryption you must use. If a business fails their mandatory annual PCI DSS compliance audit, the major credit card companies will literally revoke their ability to process digital payments entirely. To officially prove that a company is actually following these strict compliance rules, they must completely undergo frequent, highly stressful security audits. An audit is a highly formal, incredibly thorough inspection of the entire corporate security program, usually conducted by a completely independent external organization. The strict auditor will demand to see written policies, review technical firewall configurations, and directly interview employees to ensure everything perfectly matches the legal requirements. Preparing for a massive external audit is a highly stressful operational task that strictly forces the entire company to completely validate their daily security posture. As we broadly discussed earlier regarding supply chain attacks, managing the massive risk of external partners is a critical part of modern GRC. Vendor risk management strictly requires you to deeply investigate the internal security practices of every single third-party company before safely allowing them to touch your data. You must strictly force these external vendors to completely sign strict legal contracts explicitly detailing exactly how they will protect your highly sensitive information. If your trusted vendor suffers a massive data breach due to sheer negligence, your company will still ultimately suffer the devastating reputational damage in the evening news. Throughout this entire GRC process, you must clearly understand the fundamental difference between data security and data privacy. Data security refers completely to the actual technical controls, like heavy encryption and strict firewalls, used to heavily protect the information from unauthorized hackers. Data privacy focuses specifically on the legal and ethical rights of the actual customer, strongly ensuring you only collect exactly what you need and only use it for strictly approved purposes. You can definitely have a highly secure system that perfectly protects data from hackers, while simultaneously violating customer privacy by illegally selling that exact same data to advertisers. Governance also deeply involves preparing the entire business to successfully survive a massive, completely unexpected disaster through highly structured business continuity planning. While standard disaster recovery focuses entirely on rapidly fixing the broken IT servers, business continuity strictly focuses on keeping the actual company making money while those servers are completely down. This might strongly involve creating a secure plan to safely process customer orders on physical paper if the main computer database is completely destroyed by a flood. A solid business continuity plan beautifully ensures the company does not immediately go completely bankrupt during a prolonged, devastating cyber attack or natural disaster. To absolutely guarantee these massive continuity plans actually work perfectly, organizations strictly test them regularly using tabletop exercises. A tabletop exercise is a low-stress, purely scenario-based discussion where all the company executives gather safely in a single room to completely talk through a hypothetical disaster. The security facilitator might present a realistic scenario where the main office completely burns down, safely forcing the leadership team to explain exactly what they would do step by step. These incredibly valuable discussions frequently expose massive hidden flaws in the written plan without actively disrupting normal daily business operations. One of the most highly effective and strictly mandated GRC controls is the implementation of continuous security awareness training for absolutely all employees. Because normal human beings are constantly targeted by highly deceptive social engineering and advanced phishing attacks, technical software controls alone are never completely enough to perfectly secure an environment. Regular, highly engaging training teaches normal employees exactly how to quickly spot suspicious emails, perfectly secure their daily passwords, and correctly report potential security incidents. An educated and highly alert workforce is undeniably the absolute best defensive layer any secure organization can possibly have. As you can clearly see, governance, risk management, and compliance safely tie all your deep technical knowledge together into one cohesive, highly business-focused strategy. The strict firewalls, the massive encryption algorithms, and the fast incident response plans exist entirely to support the safe, legal, and highly profitable daily operation of the enterprise. By perfectly understanding both the deep technical details and the high-level executive business objectives, you quickly transform from a standard IT worker into a highly valuable, well-rounded security professional. This broad, highly realistic scenario-based understanding is exactly what modern employers are desperately looking for and what the certification exam will heavily test. Congratulations on successfully completing this final section and reaching the absolute end of our comprehensive exam preparation course. To perfectly lock in this critical GRC knowledge and strictly verify your ultimate readiness, please highly focus on completing the attached multiple-choice practice test right now. Consistently practicing with these scenario-based multiple-choice questions is scientifically proven to be the absolute best way to sharpen your critical thinking and completely guarantee your success on exam day. You have built an incredibly strong, perfectly well-rounded foundation throughout these 6 lessons, so thoroughly enjoy this massive achievement and transition confidently into passing your certification exam.